Hey guys, this is the Mistward Podcast. This is Puppet.
And this is Griff.
This is Alaric.
Yes, we have Alaric here. He's a guest from Darkhaven, as well as what other server are you on?
I'm on ET, and technically we're the host, even though we have a smaller population than DH.
Technically.
Yeah. Well, we truthfully, are smaller. We were previously linked with BG, and there's a lot of bandwagon people, so they pushed us to full, and then once we weren't linked with BG, they all left. So.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background in World vs. World and just Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, sure. So Guild Wars 2, I had actually kind of stopped gaming, and then my buddy got me a Guild Wars copy, so I'd play with him, and I hadn't really done player versus player before, and when I was about level 60, I went into World v World and had my first fight. I kind of like ran around in a circle auto-attacking with my Axe 1 on my Ranger, so it was pretty pitiful, but I ended up getting hooked, and basically did 5-man for a long time, then roaming, then zerging, and now we're basically zerg busting. That's what we try to do. So we generally run about 20 people, and try to take on more people.
Sounds a lot like my guild, but
yeah, I mean, I like that it's closer knit. Like when you're not dealing with like 50 people in a zerg, you kind of know what each other's doing and stuff, so build a little bit better relationship, I think.
So Criff,
Puppet.
what do you think about my guild moving to EU recently?
I was surprised and disappointed. At long last, Puppet's departed the fold and gone off on his own. No. No, it's been good working with your guild, but yeah, I understand. You wanted to check out some different things, and EU is very different. I've never been over there, so I'm eager to see your impressions and kind of learn what it's about.
Well, so far my first impressions of it, I can't really speak of like long term. I don't know what it's going to be. I know this is going to probably piss some people off, but so far I don't see a huge difference. I mean, that could definitely point out some differences between EU and NA, but there's nothing like that. There's no skill difference that I see. That's just, you hear the stories of the EU players are so much better than the NA players. No. No, they're not. If anything, I've seen that the EU players actually cleanse condies worse than the NA players. I think they really, really don't expect to be hit with a condi group. So when you start racking them up with burning and torment, they seem to panic a little bit more than the NA guilds that maybe halfway expect like a condi mirage or something to attack them from the side.
You're bringing something they haven't really seen before. That's good. Shake it up over there.
They also don't seem to run Rangers and Thieves like the NA does. Like NA seems to be a little bit more selfish. They seem to be a little bit more about the YouTube one-shot macros, and EU seems to be more about let's run with the comp. So you see a lot of firebrands and scourges and scrappers. You just see a lot of meta classes running around like roaming, and that's just not something you'd find on NA. And that's part of the reason why what we heard and why we wanted to go over there and check it out, because we can run around with 5 people and we can get good fights, and it's not just mirages and Rangers pew-pewing us from mountains.
That's an interesting difference. Yeah, the predominance of the pew-pew Rangers and Thieves on NA is universal. I mean, no matter what server, they're all over the place trying to pick people off. What
about stepping back a little bit? Do they still have like a decent amount of Pugmanders? Because I've noticed, NA, there's just a lot less Pugmanders than there used to be. So how is it from that perspective?
I'd say they have more Pugmanders, and they seem to give the Pugmanders a little bit more respect. I know Criff and I were talking about this earlier, but it's kind of like they have this overwhelming respect for the fight guilds and the Pugmanders that go for fights. Unlike NA, where NA's kind of they kind of don't give a crap about the fight guilds on the server. You know, they only care about like the PPT or, you know, whoever the biggest guild is. But EU seems to almost worship them. And I mean, I know there's some NA servers that have a big respect for their fight guilds and stuff, but it's not the same that I've seen on EU. EU definitely has more of them.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it's some of the, you know, American individualisticness and
Kind of. I that's actually the first thing that came to our mind was, you know, NA is all kind of about, you know, the American dream of how you can personally succeed. It's very selfish. It's very self-centered. And then EU seems to be all kind of like working together. The only problem I see with EU is that they have a lot of pride, especially when it comes to the opinion of NA versus EU, because back in HOT there was, and even in core days for a while, there was a big difference between the guild's skill level on average. But I think that things like Meta Battle and GW2 Mist have closed that gap so much because there's just so much knowledge out there that people are still stuck in the past and they still think that like EU is just far beyond NA, when no, sadly it's not like that at all.
to me, it's kind of a non-thing. Like, I've never felt or even cared what EU was doing, and I'm not in competition with them. I think they care, you know, but we don't really think about them.
Yeah, I'd say so. I do feel like they're on NA. I don't really see a whole lot of comparison between the EU and NA, but then whenever you go to the EU, it's actually seems to be a big topic that you hear a lot. It's you know, when we have someone from EU, we're like, oh, that's cool, you're from EU. But when you're like, oh, I'm from NA, they're just like, oh, you guys know how to play meta over there? I'm really shocked. It's like, they just immediately insult you.
Well, and it's funny because you don't play meta, but but
True.
do they have more I guess server identity because they're based on languages and...
Oh yeah, they you know, their server names literally have like sometimes they have the language of what they speak. Like one of them will say, you know, SP for Spanish, and then, you know, there's like a French server. Don't worry, I'll check that out eventually, Griff. But yeah, there's definitely identity, and I think a lot of the identity is just in the different languages that they're kind of bound to due to the server links.
I'm just blown away. I got to play with Dad DED over here, and their commander, he commanded in English and Japanese. I mean, it was like so impressive. So do they do that over there? Have you joined, you know, any of the comms, and are they commanding in two languages? Or
I haven't joined any yet, but I imagine there are some that command in multiple languages. I know that there's a couple French guilds that I believe also command in English, if I'm not mistaken. So
Now, how do they do this? Do they like say it in English and then in French, or like how does this happen?
yeah, I mean that's what they were doing in the group I was in. He would repeat the stuff, and I mean I'm assuming he was saying the same thing. I don't speak Japanese, but but I was just blown away because I have a hard enough time commanding in one language. So
that's actually really cool. I did not know that the commander of Dead would speak Japanese as well. That's really interesting.
there may be other commanders. This was like during the morning, so but yeah, they're super cool.
I commanded in Spanish once, and it was very difficult.
I heard about that. I heard. Wait, how long ago was it? That was months ago, right?
It was, yeah, I think it was this spring sometime. There was a Spanish guild that was, you know, trying to get involved on the server, and I mean, they were not experiencing World vs. World, so I know just enough Spanish to, you know, give it a shot, and they had fun. I had fun. It was great.
They seem to be more united with within their server. Like the main server we've been fighting right now, the one that's been giving us fights during NA time. They remind me of a particular server that we've dealt with on NA, and not just the particular server. They remind me of a particular guild where they'll sit there and attack like Wild Creek, and they'll have like 40 plus out there. So, you know, my 12, 13 guys run up to Wild Creek. We get inside. We're like getting ready to blast stealth as the wall comes down. The wall comes down. and they're gone. They all waypointed, and you think, okay, well, they waypointed, and you kind of know what they're doing, and they basically just waypoint and then run all the way back because they know that you're gonna like go a different route. Like we went through Dredge to go look at Ans to see if maybe they're responding to something, but then by the time we get to Ans, all of a sudden they're all back at Wild Creek, and there's like 40-50 of them, and they all just run inside and they cap it and they wave at us, and then they just waypoint out. They wouldn't fight us. We had to actually like catch them to get them to fight or force their hand. So I don't know if that reminds you of anyone, but
yeah, they may just be more PPT focused or something.
But that's like the entire server. Even when we played EU Prime, they acted like that. They did not want to fight. They just wanted to cap things and run away, and they see that as a victory. And I know there's some servers even on NA that have that mindset of like, we don't care if we lose the fight. A victory in our mind is if we cap the tower.
Yeah, that is a different, playing for points, a different terms of victory that I think probably near half the population doesn't really care about the fights. They're after the points. They want to, see their server go up in the rankings.
I've never understood that at all. And I think that's what causes a lot of server clashes is certain guilds that, especially a lot of times those tend to be the bigger guilds, and those guilds start trying to control things, or they get tier hungry, so they start trying to say, oh, well, we dominated so hard in PPT and tier 3, we could do that in tier 2, but we could even dominate tier 1, we just got to use these tactics. And I think that's where conflict rises within communities. So I think it helps on like an EU server more so, where they have like they're all kind of bound by one language, and if they branch out of that server, there's not going to be as much they may not be able to communicate as well, unlike the NA servers where everyone in NA basically just speaks English. There's going to be some Spanish speakers, but it's basically just English, and we're all just dicks to each other.
I think if they have smaller communities, they wouldn't be able to burn bridges as much as we can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Well, like I've yet to see a English named guild on the main server we're fighting right now, which I think is cool. Like I'm really happy that those communities have been able to stick together and they're so close knit and stuff. I'm just thinking of, what if NA server, are there even NA servers that even work that well together as well as this server is working together? And if so, who are they? Like how do you even get to that point? Because you have to be on the same page.
I think Blackgate is probably the one that does it the best, right? I mean, they, they've been number one forever, but part of that is, they all. I mean, we were just linked with them, so I only have some experience, but it seems like they all get along and they do a lot of coordination and communication, and they have a lot of pug tags, which that's lacking quite a bit in a lot of servers now. So. But yeah, and then there's other servers that, they hate each other. Guilds won't fight together because they don't like each other and things like that. So and if anyone pugmans, everyone starts shitting on them and giving them crap. So yeah, so I would say BG is probably the most like that.
I would agree. I think BG, and I think there's servers on NA that have had moments of acting like that, but it always feels like NA servers have the tendency to rise and fall. It's like there's some alliance, there's some guilds or some pug manor that like kind of controls the server. They put it to whatever tier they want. It gets this reputation, and then that person leaves or quits, and then that server just kind of gets abandoned, and everyone bandwagons to something else. And then until some other guild decides that they're going to show up on that server, and then they're like, oh, we're taking control of it now. And I don't think that happens as much on EU. It probably does to an extent, but I imagine with the servers that are kind of supposed to be a specific language, I bet they center more on one thing, and probably keeps things pretty stable.
Yeah, they have a lot less options, right? I mean, here we could switch to any server, And there they probably have it's what, German, French, Spanish, so they have 1/3 as many choices.
And some of them don't even say they have a language. I'm assuming those are just supposed to be English or whatever speaking. I know
Miscellaneous languages.
the,
Yeah.
the the server we're on doesn't have anything, but I know we're fighting a server that has a French link, and I know somebody that actually made an alt account on that French link server one time, and they went over there and they said that they didn't understand what was being spoken. They know French, but they know like French can they learned French in like Canada, like French.
Oh God,
Quebec.
yeah. So that's another
So,
thing,
it's
right? You could have your link is different language. Didn't I? There was like a whole thing, right? ANET made the decision that they weren't going to try to link servers based on language anymore.
I did see some forum posts about that. Yeah, and we never
Yeah,
really.
so
I
that's
didn't pay
crazy.
much mind, but
That's
that's
gotta be
very
a pain
dramatic.
in the
Yeah.
butt.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I can't even imagine that because like link in NA we already don't get along with the link either way. I can't imagine being linked with like a French server and people refuse to speak English, and how do you even communicate with your link? You're basically just two different servers that have to share populations.
See, on NA, SARS Furnace was kind of like the unofficial Spanish server for a while, and they still have a lot of that. And Tarnished Coast was the roleplay server, of course, but
Spent some time there, Chris?
not on purpose. No,
Oh, so you were there.
just as a link. But
Okay,
no,
okay.
those were.
That's the past. We don't discuss that here.
Now, what I do find interesting is that EU actually has a tier 5, and I mean, I don't think you've been there long enough to really see how that plays into things, but NA only having 4 tiers seems like that could be a different experience.
I think NA could have a tier 5, or at least, when I was recently on NA, I was praying that NA had a tier 5, so I didn't have to be queued out of every map for the 2.5 hours my guild rated. But I think that was just the link in our server, and who knows? It was a mystery. Let's just say it was a mystery of why we were being so locked out of things, but I'm not really sure if NA could have a tier 5. I always hear that the populations on EU are bigger, but I haven't explored it enough. I'll be able to give a better opinion in probably a month or so.
Now, I wonder if it would be feasible even to merge between them, in some future version, to link between NA and EU accounts or
that'd be
merge
awesome.
the two.
I think that, I mean, like ANET used to do that, the special weeks or whatever, like no downstate week, or that one when they did the golems over double damage for golems or something. I mean, I'm sure it's like a nightmare, but god dang, that would be so awesome if they could just do it for a week where, NA and EU could fight each other. That'd just be amazing.
Well, I know they're separate by mega servers, so when my account is on EU, I can't do PvE with NA people.
Oh.
So it is two different servers.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I
dream, but that'd be freaking awesome.
I do wish it would be one mega server, and like EOTM was NA EU crossover, because then
that's a good point. Even
They
EOTM.
could do that. I
Yeah.
mean, do we know that they don't? Like, do you definitely not see EU people in Edge of the Mist?
no, you don't.
Okay.
It's sad to say, but that would be a lot of fun because it would get EOTM active. Like honestly,
Totally.
in my opinion, they need to take away the whole less rewards in EOTM. They just need to give full rewards. I actually wish there would be an EOTM revamp. I know I had heard rumors of like an EOTM map that had been made to be take place of one of the borderlands, but they never used it, and apparently it was optimized and redesigned for mounts and gliding and stuff. And honestly, I wish they would just take that new map and just make it EOTM, give full rewards, because EOTM used to just be such a beneficial thing. I mean, with the crossover to NA and EU or not, I think that would just be a beneficial thing. Crossing over would be cool, though.
so many people don't even know about it. Like I use it for trainings on occasion because you can use a lot of mechanics and stuff out of the way, and nobody even knows it's there. I mean, I have to tell go into the World vs. World window on the right side, click Edge of the Mist, and
Last time I went in there, it was deserted. There was no one in there. I just walked around, and yeah, it's dead in there.
It's either Guild's training or it's Guild's GVG in the arena. Have you even seen that arena?
I haven't. I was blown away. I did not know when it was added at all. I just was invited to a GVG maybe a month or two ago, and then there were like Edge of the Mist going here. I was like, what? It's cool. It's meant for Guild versus Guild. I can't think of another reason they put it in there. And
Well,
Is that arena instanced? Like, could you fight someone on your own server in there, or
no.
or no? Okay.
You just same EOTM rules. If they're blue and you're green, cool, you can fight. It doesn't matter what tier you're in, as long as you're not the same color. But apparently that arena was made by a ANET World v World dev in his spare time. He just kind of made it on his own and was just like, here you go. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
when
that is cool.
when did they sneak that in? Like I
It
don't.
was like
I
a
don't
year and
know
a
when
half
it happened.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like mid 2019 or towards the end of 2019, I think, when they brought that in. I could be wrong. I could be completely whiffing when it happened, but I feel like that was the time frame.
Yes, for you guys at home, if you go in Edge of the Mist, I think you turn directly to the right, and there's another portal, and that's how you get in there.
It'll be smaller than the other one. But
the other one.
what?
What do you mean the other one?
Well, like there's
the-
multiple
the-
portals that are around
Right,
it. I
the
think
portal will be smaller.
I
Okay.
think it's called Mist Arena or something like that. But no, EOTM was such a fun aspect of World versus World when I was playing in core days. It was always active. You could get a smaller group of friends and maybe do decent with against larger groups. It was a lot of times it was just suicide missions.
And you could do it against larger groups because a lot of times that's where people would level up. So you could do it was a bunch of basically pugs that were trying to level up, and some commander trying to take them through, to level them up. And yeah, I know Wooden Potatoes. He posted some really funny fights in there where 5 of them would take on 40 people and nuke them all and stuff like that.
Did you ever see the EOTM guild that literally was called Edge of the Mist?
Yeah, I did see them. I don't remember if they were good or not.
Well, they used to have this system where they were on different servers. So there were 3 commanders that were on different servers. They try and be different colors, and they would each lead a group, like a map queue, and they would rotate in a clockwise thing of capping everything. So they would keep EOTM functioning
Level
like that.
people up.
And yeah, they would help people level up and just karma train. And then the last 10 minutes of EOTM, because it resets every few hours. At the last 10 minutes of it, they'd all meet in the middle and they would have this big fight.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's
And
cool.
It
that they
was
did
always
that.
just a lot of fun to follow that around. Or it was fun to get your group of 10 to 15 and go just Zerg bust that and just ruin the karma train.
I mean, it's a good alternative to being in a queue or doing some kind of content you don't really want to in World vs. World. So I would love to see it come back. That's something that they could easily do too. I think if they just added in pips or something basic on that level, I think people would go back to it.
If you brought the reward track back to full force and you put pips in there, people would go to EOTM. I don't think it'd be an issue. I don't think we'd deal with queues as much as we do, or you wouldn't notice because EOTM could be a real place on reset night to go, and you'd get full rewards, and you wouldn't be frustrated that there's some 40, 50 man queue on EBG and you can't get in because your guild could just go to EOTM and fight other people, and it's just not a big deal. I don't know why they made that decision.
Because inevitably there's somebody in there brand new to World vs. World just trying to farm their gift of battle, and they're there for no other reason and don't care about anything that's going on. And and they take up your queue space. They could go to Edge of the Mist and do the same thing.
I think that's the perfect place for people to farm things like gift of battle and stuff. And it sucked whenever they took that away. They made the rewards not as good in there. And who knows? They might change it. I mean, ANET surprised us a lot. I'd say through 2020 they kept surprising me with every single patch. It was like, oh wow, they actually did it. You freaking did it.
Actually, we've mentioned before, I think, even the lack of pugmanders, the lack of open tags just running around. And I wonder if some of that isn't because of the death of Edge of the Mist. I think a lot of people kind of learn to command there because that gives you an easier place to try stuff. And
Yeah, I'd say so. It's way less stressful. It's people that you may never really see again. It's just random pugs, and they're not people that you have to see all the time. And I think right now to be a pugmander in 2021, it's pretty scary to step up and be like, hey, I'm going to start pugmanning on Guild Wars 2 and World vs. World, because people have a standard, or people have a standard in their mind of like what the results should be. People still don't have a standard of how to even get those results or know how to get them, but people are so punishing. You wipe one time, even if it's not your fault, everyone just can blame you, and that can just shatter someone's confidence to try and tag up again. And that could have been a really good commander that you may never see again.
oh yeah, map check can be brutal. I mean, and normal people that you normally have in your group and playing with you, they'll just go off on a commander for something minor.
I wish they'd bring it back, and maybe we should make like a big forum post or gather up the community and demand EOTM again. But I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens during this year. I think with the expansion, I think we'll start seeing some more World versus World changes than we think we're going to see. I think there's going to be some more balance changes than we were expecting as well. But time will tell, because, I mean, right now, do we even know when the expansion's supposed to come out? Or is that just, like, in the nether?
Probably when Alliances comes out.
So when's that? Never?
Now the expansions, I haven't heard any dates or anything. They just released a teaser picture, and then beyond that, I haven't really heard anything else. But soon enough, once they wrap up, I guess, the Living Story PvE things that I don't pay a lot of attention to.
I'm expecting, like, late summer or, like, early spring. Or not early spring, early fall is whenever we're going to, like, either get it like an actual release or, like, a real confirmed release date. Like, I can't expect them to push it back any more than that. We should know something by then. I'm just excited to see what the specializations are.
Yeah, it seems like they always come out like, August to October, somewhere around there.
Yeah, because
that's when the previous ones were.
Heart of Thorns was October, and then Path of Fire was September. So, yes. I think, yeah, you're right.
Should be cool. I'm not going to hold my breath, but
Sooner or later. I mean, it'll make them money. That's something they like to do.
Well, I know that this expansion actually has a lot of hype. Like more hype than even HOT and Path of Fire did. And I think it's because people think that ANET's maybe learned from both experiences, that they know exactly how to go about this now. Like, I have confidence that out the gate, World v World balance with the classes are going to be a lot better, because the World v World balance team and the skill balance team are two separate things now. They're, ever since the end of 2019, the competitive team can balance SPVP and World versus World skills how they want, instead of having to just like submit how they want it to be balanced, and the balance team has to approve or deny it. So I think the classes will be better, especially if they do like a beta weekend.
Yeah, I kind of liked, with HOT, they did like 3 beta weekends or something, and I thought that was too much. I kind of liked how POF was just a little bit, quicker, I guess.
I felt like POF kind of, like, HOT was way more out in the distance and
tons
hyped.
Of build up for a year, and then all the beta weekends, and then with POF it was just boom. It was like a lot faster. They
kind of just showed us the expansion, like, oh, by the way, it's coming out. Here you go. Okay, which is fine. I didn't mind it either way, but I'm just really excited to see what the specializations are.
I mean, it's going to be awesome. All the people that love to theory craft are just going to go crazy trying to figure out, how it's going to fit into their comps and stuff, or how they're going to change their comp. I think it'd be awesome though if, they did. What was it? Yeah, Heart of Thorns is when they did the Desert BL or whatever. I wish to God they would just create kind of like an instance arena, like every hour, guild groups could go in there, 40-man limit, something like that. And, kind of like Alaric Valley or whatever that World v World had, or WoW had. Because, the alliances are supposed to fix population balance issues. And just doing an instanced, map would fix those problems,
Well, I know there's been an idea for a long time that at the end of every skirmish or something like that, like the last 30 minutes or something, there's like a map that opens up and each server can only fit like 50 people in or something. And when you get in there, everyone has like one spawn point and it's really small. And it's basically like a last man standing. And whoever wins gets a chunk more of points or something like that, or server reward. And I think that would be a good way to go about it. Obviously that'd cause some conflict when you've got random rangers and thieves that get in there, or some guild that everyone knows is kind of poopy, but people get mad at them. But
yeah, I
mean, it'd be a fun idea though.
We're dealing with the bad cloud this week. So, I mean, Rangers and Thieves, that can actually work, if they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So
that could be cool though. And in PvP there is this, the open fighting zone. I don't know if you guys have messed around in there, but I could totally see them just, whether they add, a point influence to that or not, or if it's just an open zone where people, roamers go in and, fight each other as long as they want. That'd add something for the roamers, I guess.
Well, I see it as kind of like a Coliseum, Coliseum last man standing hurrah. And the whole objective is to just fight and survive. So even if you're a smaller guild, it's not about numbers at that point. It's just about who can win. So you don't just... Oh, what?
I was just going to say, forget about points or whatever. I just want more Doliak statues. They just need to give us more of those Doliak statues in Spawn.
Yeah, those what is it? Have you ever looked up any of those ideas for how World v World should be revamped and the seasons and stuff like that? People have
with? Yeah.
There's a lot of cool ones, and then there's a lot of ones that I don't think people actually played World versus World, and they don't quite understand how the game works. Or
well, I mean, that. We all know there's PPT guilds, there's fight guilds, there's people that like to scout. People go in there for a bunch of different reasons, right? And so, the suggestions are going to be based on what they enjoy doing, So, I think all those suggestions, they're valid from their perspective or whatever. But I think the biggest complaint I've heard is just, population imbalances, right? When you're playing, you're massively outnumbered or there's nothing to fight. And so that's why I just think doing an instanced map or something would be the way to resolve that issue. But
I think
what, Griff? I think that's kind of what Edge of the Mist is, but it's not really used that way. I mean,
EOTM could be done like that, but god dang, there's way too many NPC mechanics and stuff like that. I mean, just trying to get to each other, quickly get back to fights and things like that would, I don't know. I didn't spend as much time in EOTM as you guys, but that map is confusing as hell, and then some of those NPCs are just super nasty. If you're trying to get back to your group running through all those NPCs and stuff, it could be a real pain in the butt. But I guess you could do mounts now in EOTM now, or no?
No.
No, it is dated. Yeah, you're slow there.
No mounts, no gliding. I mean, I think that's something that definitely needs to be revamped. I think if they added those two changes and then just put full rewards, it'd be a good map for that stuff. But you're right, though. There are some really nasty NPCs. Some of them you're walking by and they force choke you and then just fling you off a cliff, and you're just like, what is this? Who thought this was a balanced mechanic for a boss in here?
Speaking of that, I still am pissed that they haven't fixed the Air Lord. I mean, you should be able to use stab to get out of that donut of shame.
Yeah, what the heck is up with that?
I mean, why
a
can't
death
you
trap.
use stab? Yeah.
Nothing works. You're just stuck in there. Yeah, it totally negates melee. You're just standing there twiddling your thumbs.
Can't you teleport out of it?
I don't think so, but I can't say that I've tried.
Well, I think you could blink out of it, right? But if it's some of the blinks are different, or some of the gap closers are different. But it depends on like if you're actually moving or if you're just appearing in a different area.
Like, I don't think you could sand swell out because
No.
you can get like snatched mid sand swell.
Well, yeah.
It's just really weird, but yeah, people think that skill is a lot stronger than it is. People are like, "Oh, sand swell me up." I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
It's not a mesmer portal, no.
Yeah, almost no one uses sand swell. If they should make that like 2,000 units, and then it'd be useful. But like the cast time and everything, you could practically run there in the time it takes for you to do the the cast and everything.
They at least need to make it 1200 range. I think 1200 it would be a lot more useful because
Totally.
it's like 900 right now, and I mean, it's not unless you're just like randomly doing it, just kind of psyching someone out. It's not really useful.
I mean, we've done it where like the scourge does it, and someone runs past with swiftness, and you practically get to the same spot either way. So
yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be reworked. So
Now
oh, what?
Go ahead.
Oh no, go for it, Criff. What do you got? Share with the class.
Oh, just saying, you mentioned the PPT guilds and the people have different goals as far as what they're playing for, and that was leading to one of the things we were going to talk about, quote unquote, controlling the server in terms of, those tiers we were talking about, which, I mean, I guess we didn't really explain per se, but the quote unquote League of World vs. World, the 4 different matches that are going on and moving up and down in the rankings.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you want to explain the tiers really quickly?
Yeah, so that's one of the differences for your new home in EU, but over here on this side of the pond, we have 4 matchups going on right now. T1, T2, T3, T4, and as it tends to be, some servers are highly populated, highly organized, and they're always up top, and others are less populated, less organized, and tend to be down on the bottom.
Well,
coverage is a big part of that, right? I mean, PPT points just from holding stuff seems to be anywhere from 60 to 70% of overall points, and being able to protect your structures or whatever for 24/7 because you have coverage makes a huge difference. So I mean, that's probably the biggest thing,
I think that's what makes EU maybe a little less how do I put it? A little bit more competitive with their PPT is their coverage doesn't seem to be as ridiculous in the night unless it's like a specific server, which is probably one of the main things that we're going to run into, why we're testing the waters to see how good the populations are during like NA time, is from what I hear, some servers go to bed, unlike NA that kind of still always has something actively going on. So maybe that's why EU seems a little bit more competitive and why there's 5 tiers, because their people are more spread out on like an active daytime time zone for themselves, instead of just like stacking OCX guilds and seat time guilds onto servers where there's not a reason for 5 tiers.
So, okay, so you're saying on the EU servers, they don't really have people playing in their nighttime hours?
From what I hear, not as many. I mean, I hear that a lot of servers still have night crews, but I don't think they're the same extent night crews that we experience on like NA, where you've got, like NSP has a giant night crew for NA. And, even Darkhaven, we have a decently sized night crew. Our server has absolutely no night crew. We showed up and people were like, there's a night crew? We gained a night crew? And the server we're fighting has a big night crew, but And I know there was another German server that had a decent sized night crew. So we're kind of just testing the waters to see, is this enough content for us? Because you also, we're gonna be running smart. We're gonna be running, 10 to 15 people max. We'll enjoy fighting a 25, 30 man organized group for a couple hours as long as they're there. But if we run into the issue that there's just not the same type of overnight coverage, then probably gonna have to hightail it back. But I think that's why they have 5 tiers. It's because their population may not necessarily be bigger, but it's more spread. Where it's like if you just tried to stack our NA time 3 times as big. You can't do that. You just need more servers because the maps would be too cute.
Interesting. Now, you may not have been there long enough to really catch the vibes yet as far as how the servers work, but I was wondering if on EU they experienced the same loss of server identity, and if guilds transfer a whole lot and it's not if that's going on, or if they're still pretty stoic in their servers and everything's the same.
I guess it's similar. If not, if anything, I'd say they're a little bit more grounded in their server. I do know of a guild that just transferred off of our server because they had some drama that was going on, but I don't think I don't know if it had really been really affected them a whole lot. If they had been nostalgic to that server they were on. I bet there are guilds though, just like NA has guilds that are pretty nostalgic to servers, but I'd even say on NA it's gotten pretty loose. Almost every single guild except for a couple handful have moved at some point.
I always think it's funny when there's a guild with the server name in it, but they're on a different server now.
Right.
Time to make a support ticket.
Feel bad for those guys,
I mean, who are the most loyal people in NA? Because the people I see are the random pugs that are just on every day, or a scout that sits in a tower and it's just live or die by Blackgate. That's the only people I see. I don't really see guilds that are super loyal to servers, but
I've always imagined that Blackgate has those super loyal, server guilds because they've just been the top server forever, but I don't really know.
Blackgate has so much loyalty that they have bandwagoners join the link, I mean, that's crazy. That's next level.
Well, I guess I've just never understood server pride. Take Darkhaven. I like Darkhaven. I think it's a good server. I really like the community, but my loyalty was never to Darkhaven. If I was a part of another guild and I loved running with this guild and this guild just said, "Hey, we're packing up, we're leaving," I'd just say, "Okay, cool." Maybe I've just got a different standpoint than most people, but
I think it's really kind of a symptom of how World vs. World is set up right now. I mean, you don't get anything for the server winning. Nothing at all.
Gotta bring back those Dolyak statues.
Yeah.
Bring back seasons?
Yeah, why did they not? I mean, I know they said that it was burning people out, but that just seems ridiculous. You guys are enjoying our game too much, guys. Quit it.
Well, I don't get it, because seasons, all you have to do is create, I wrote out this entire layout that I actually want to go over one day on a podcast of it, but I wrote this entire layout of how they could create a season tournament that's automated, and it doesn't have to be hyped up, it doesn't have to be ridiculous, it just brings more rewards, and it would bring more beneficial things to the community of the servers without them having to sit there and monitor it and make some giant post. It'd kind of be like the SPVP automated tournaments, but they would just be kind of ongoing, and it would give PPT a reason.
One of the nice things about the seasons, though, is they weren't always going on. So I mean, I don't know if I'd want it all the time, but
well, that's true. I mean, I think there could always be some downtime. You could do some downtime, release a balance patch, have I think that's whenever, the funny things like the no downstate weekend and like golems cost no siege and stuff like that. I think that's whenever you could have those moments, because you can have like a season for like a month and then have like downtime for a week or whatever and do a silly week, no downstate for a week, double World v World XP. Okay, we're just chilling, we're relaxing, this is silly, and then next season starts.
That's a cool idea. Yeah,
That sounds
kind of
great to
switch
me.
it up. Yeah.
I think
But
that
yeah, they got to bring back those weeks when they do. I just think those are so fun when they were trying new mechanics or whatever. That was a blast when they would do that.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of the no stealth weekend.
Well, but then you can't actually play some of your classes,
Yeah,
Well,
I don't.
So
I don't want to limit. I don't want to limit classes. I don't want to make it where certain classes are just obsolete some weeks. Like the thing.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The thing that makes me mad about no downstate weekend is you go no downstate weekend and then you come back to normal and you're just like, this sucks. I want no downstate. But that might also just be a byproduct of my guild's playstyle because, Condi is really difficult to kill downs, and we have to do certain things. Like we've got like set strategies on how to go about it. But when there's no downstate, people just die. They run off. They got burning and torment. They ticks. They die.
No downstate was fun. I mean, for me, it was really fun, but it was very unforgiving for some of my newer members. They did not enjoy it.
I didn't think about that. Especially like a player who casually plays Guild Wars 2 and is so used to downstate, that it must be very punishing to go in there for that week, and when they die, they just immediately are dead. And I think the number one class that pissed off was like Ellies. These really ballsy Ellies that run in and do whatever they want, and then they die. They're just like, well, I'll just mistform back to my group, and they can't mistform back anymore. So I think we should be closing up here soon. Criff, did you have any questions that people? I know we had asked some people on the Discord if they had any questions for us to go over. Do you want to read those off, and maybe we can go back and forth on answering?
Sure. So some of the questions I got here are kind of playing into the idea of PPT, the points and this and that, talking about scouting. So scouting is a big topic that, gets people heated in both directions. There's probably not as much of it as there used to be. I don't know what you guys' takes are.
I mean, scouts are Fight Guild's best friend. So,
I agree.
I mean, if people are, calling out, hey, there's 20 man over here, 30 man over here, that's huge. And then you just run over and, and then some servers are better about communicating, like, hey, we're engaged in a fight right now. Is there any guild, that's going to go fight this group, or should we start disengaging and going over there? And but also there's less scouting, just like there's less pug manning, because then people yell at the scouts. You pulled that waypoint too late or too early, or or you didn't give enough accurate numbers, or X, Y, and Z. So I mean, scouting is huge, and there's just not as much of it as there used to be.
I think my main thing with scouting is I like scouting, but sometimes I almost wish people wouldn't scout when they're bad at it. Like, when you're running on a BL and someone's like, OMG 40 plus ink, they're coming to, and then they just stop typing there. And you sit there for like 10 seconds and everyone starts typing like, hello, where are they heading? Hello? And then finally they type out where they're heading to. And
well, I mean, there's tons of like horrible calls, right? Like ink and just if you're kind of new to World v World, you should know that you could change your chat to show which BL people are in.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people in team chat will say ink, and then you could see, oh, they're on blue BL or green BL or whatever, and they're not. It's not related to you or whatever. So, or they'll say, hey, they're at Southwest Tower. Well, which BL? That's a good tip for new people is set up your chat so that it shows which BL they're in when they do that. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many bad call outs, right? Ink or, or it's 10 and it turns out to be 40, or they say it's a Zerg, and everyone has a different idea of what a Zerg is, and it turns out to be 6 people, so, but you can't, I would avoid, criticizing the scouts, because you do need scouts, so.
Or the famous enemies on map. That call, enemies on
Very
map.
vague.
Enemies spotted. Awesome. Cool.
There's got to be some positive reinforcement for them. I like to throw them a thank you, even if they're not doing the greatest call outs. But
Had people, like, when I'm roaming, I've gotten gold. Some people have given me gold for good call outs, so, which is awesome. I don't need it, but that's super nice.
That used to happen a lot back in the day. Like, I know a commander who used to pay someone 100 gold. It was like 100 gold an hour, or 50 gold an hour, or something like that, to scout like their Gary. And I mean, people used to bank. But I don't know. I just can't imagine sitting in a tower and just sitting on a cannon or a treb or something. I mean, I feel like a lot of them just sit back and like watch Netflix. But man, I'd be so bored. But I just, some people just get really, they get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, and I mean, helps the server, I guess, maintain their defenses.
Well, one thing I noticed, to go over this really quickly, one thing I did notice on EU compared to NA, at least on the server I'm on, is they don't use map chat. They only use team chat, and I don't know why.
Crazy. That would drive me crazy, man.
They're constant on team chat, and they're giving out real call-outs, and there's a lot of good scouts, but then there's also the bad scouts. Like, I've already had to block a couple people that I could tell were just gonna just be obnoxious. I'm not one for blocking people, but people just making out weird calls and stuff, and so it's pretty trippy right now, only seeing team chat be used, and I keep expecting, I read, incoming 40 plus, and then Southwest, and then I'm like, oh, that's team chat. Oh, okay, they're on Blue BL. I'm on EBG. And it's been really trippy, because on NA, in my opinion, from what I've seen, we use map chat a lot more than we use team chat for specific callouts.
Yeah, I mean, generally,
100%
it's better to
agree.
keep them separate if you can. Try not to spam it up. But
Do you want to do another question, and then we'll close it up?
Sure. So this one is along the same lines. When to siege up, one of our structures, tower, garrison, etc.
What do you got,
you guys
Alaric?
probably have separate ideas totally on that one. But
I mean, like, are we saying just generally, or like if your guild is defending garrison and you're having to decide whether or not you're going to use siege to tip the balance in your favor? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, assuming when we would actually want to win and have our structures and not.
Because I
lose
mean,
them.
I do that. I mean, there's times when we go out, we fight, we can't take them, for whatever reason, and then we retreat back. We're going to defend the tower, and we know, that if we just fight them straight up, we're probably going to lose because they outnumber us or whatever. And I'll throw down some ACs, and hope that the pugs get on them. Like, we have a rule that none of us get on siege, just because we're more valuable on tag. But I mean, my guild gives me crap all the time because I'm like, hopefully the pugs will use that, and they never do, But we try, So I'm not against it, and it's up to them, right? They could see the ACs or whatever, and if they want to come into the tower, they can. And if they don't, then they'll hang out there, and then maybe we'll come back out and try again.
I think siege is one of those things. I'm completely fine with it. I don't, like, I could go on a long spiel of how I'm against ACs and I'm against cannons, and I think we should only have offensive siege. We shouldn't have defensive siege. But in a lot of cases, if my guild like capped SMC and there's like a group to fight that keeps trying to bust in, we'll not really encourage people to build siege, but I kind of expect people to. And a lot of times I'll even warn the pugs on the map or something like, hey, my guild's tagging down in 15 minutes. You better start building siege in, like, third floor or second floor, or you're just going to lose this. 5 minutes after we leave. Like, basically, prepare to not have a tag right now, or someone tag up. And I think that's when siege is necessary. I think it's a tool to be used when you don't have a tag. I think my problem when things get ridiculous is when you fight a server that sits in a tier 3 tower and they're bigger than you. They're running 40, 50 people. You're running 20 something, and they sit inside a tower and start building siege, and you completely outnumber them, and you may not even fought yet. And that's whenever I start thinking in my mind, like, ANET, please get rid of siege. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. But I mean, then you're not going to go to that tower because they outnumber you and they have siege. I mean, it's you get to choose which engagements you're going to have, and yeah, you don't get to fight them now, and that's a bummer. But I wouldn't push into siege while I'm outnumbered.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's some, I was gonna say mag, but there's some servers that's their whole thing, right? Is they siege the crap out of stuff, and then they try to pull you into their buff zone, into their siege, and fight you right out there. You can choose to do it or not to do it. Some people choose to, and I'm not going to yuck their yum. If that's what they want to do, then they get to do that. It's everyone's game. I wouldn't do that if I outnumbered them. I wouldn't be building siege and staying in the tower. And well, maybe if I was a pugmander, and I had zero confidence in my group, But yeah, I don't feel like I need that big of an advantage generally.
Siege is definitely a good and bad tool. I don't think it really causes harm to the game, but I also don't think it really benefits the game sometimes.
I wish. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was basically just gonna say I think there's too many guilds and too many players that are never taught to actually how to fight, and in the long run they rely on siege so much that I think it actually just kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say it causes a negative impact, but at least from my perspective, and I know that my biased perspective, it makes the game less fun.
I wish that Arc DPS showed siege damage, because I'd be really curious. Like in, say, 30v30 and someone's on an AC, how much damage are they really doing? I mean, you can kind of like guesstimate, but it'd be so cool if Arc DPS showed it, because then you'd actually know.
I think it used to back in the day. Like the
okay.
first forms of Arc DPS, I do believe, because it also used to show critter damage. So like you'd be in a fight and everyone would be like kind of even, and then there'd be some necro that's like 200, 300k above everyone because he hit a freaking moth or something, or a rabbit. So, you do like insane damage to those critters. So I'm glad they kind of took that out, because people would be like, oh, well, look how much more damage I did, and then you go through like the log and you're like, no, you did like 300k to a rabbit.
I mean, it'd be cool to have that back in, and then you could filter it out or whatever. I mean, I don't care about the critters, but I'm just curious, because I don't really know how much ACs help or not. I know like standing under 5 ACs sucks, but I'd be curious.
I agree with that. Well, Criff, I think we should probably wrap up here. Did you have anything, last things to say?
I just wanted to thank everybody for liking and subscribing and all that good YouTube stuff. And we've also created a Patreon, however you say it, for the podcast. So if you want to chip anything there, cool. We'll buy Siege with it.
Well, Alaric, it was awesome having you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I think your studio is really nice. I'm impressed with what you've done here.
You like the green screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the... Criff almost didn't let me buy it,
Yeah.
It was kind of over our budget, but we splurged.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right,
Glad to have you, Alaric.
All right.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
We will catch you guys next time.
All right.
Thanks.